In our last video, we talked about deflation as something which is not so desirable. But in case of deflation, we'll also see there are situations when it is actually desirable, and there's situations also where it's undesirable. So, what is deflation? Deflation simply is what we call a persistent fall in the average level of prices in an economy. So in other words, price level is going down in an economy. Now, if deflation is happening because of what we call an improvement in the supply side, we will say it is not that bad, it is actually very desirable. Why would that be? I'll show that in a diagram. But basically, that means the cost of production is going down, and we'll soon see that is a desirable situation. On the other hand, you might have a situation where you may see that there is what we call a fall of demand or lack of demand that is causing what we call uh, deflation to happen. And if that is the case, then that is what we call an undesirable situation. So whenever there is an improvement in supply side, aggregate supply will be rising, and that's why we call it desirable. While when there is a lack of demand, we call it undesirable. And in that situation, we'll see that AD will be actually going down. So let's see this in terms of a situation of both desirable and undesirable kind of a deflation, and then we'll talk about the effects of it. So I've made two diagrams, one in which you will see cost of production to go down and therefore desirable deflation, and another one we'll see a fall of AD and therefore undesirable deflation. So if there is a rise in aggregate sort of supply, that happens because the cost of production is going down. That is a desirable situation. Why? Because in that case, you will see the price level to go down, but at the same time, you will see the GDP of an economy to go up. So there is a rise in GDP, a fall in unemployment, a lower price level, and therefore a desirable kind of a situation when it comes to deflation. But deflation could also be undesirable, and this is where we commonly see the prices to go down because of a fall of aggregate demand. This fall of aggregate demand, AD curve shifting backward, is undesirable. Why? Because now the price level goes down and the real GDP is also going down. So this fall of AD, where the price level is going down and real GDP is going down, will be undesirable because of many reasons which we want to talk about. The fall of this aggregate demand, therefore, has these challenges that we need to explore. And the first cost that we look at is basically what we call a, a loss of consumer confidence. You know, with falling prices, consumer confidence will be low. Why? Because consumer will be like, you know what, prices are going down and they will go down further, and therefore I should not buy today, I should buy tomorrow. So they will basically delay their consumption. And this delay of consumption would mean consumption would start to fall as consumers are basically looking for cheaper prices, because they know today the prices are, for example, at one level and tomorrow they will fall further because there is what we call a falling AD. Now, when this happens, the firms will also start reacting because lower consumption would mean lower investment. The firms will cut down investment, and that basically will result in what we call a vicious circle, because C went down, now I went down, which will make the AD go down, and this fall of AD will result in again trigger basically C and I to fall, and you may see continuous fall of GDP and therefore continuous sort of shrinking of the economy, and you can see economy to plunge into what we call a recession. Now, when this all is happening, workers will be very unhappy because there will be what we call a rise in unemployment. So while the AD is going down and GDP is going down, unemployment, let's call it UE, will go up, and that again would mean falling incomes and therefore falling AD for the economy. So we are now in a situation where AD's sort of decline has triggered all of these consumer confidence to go down, business confidence to go down, unemployment to go up. And lastly, in this kind of an environment when the prices are going down, borrowers will also be finding it difficult to repay their loans. So if you're a firm that has taken a loan, you will suffer from deflation, because when the price level goes down, your real income or real sort of payments will go up, as we've discussed this earlier. Now, in inflation, when the borrowers were having a good time, they were the party that were benefiting. In deflation, these borrowers will actually find it difficult to sort of repay now, because number one, there is lower business and consumer confidence, but at the same time now the interest payments are basically going to be much higher, as now your deflation has made the rate to become, for example, more. So, for example, from a borrower perspective, if he's taken a loan at an interest rate of 5%, and if the inflation rate, let's call it pi, to be minus 2%, he is effectively paying 5% minus 2%, which means he's effectively paying 7%. So for him, when the price level goes down, the real interest that he's paying will go up, which will mean he's paying effectively more money than required, which would mean there will be more businesses going down, as they will be unable to pay. So there will be bankruptcies, as businesses will be unable to repay their liabilities that easily. Due to these reasons, we sometimes therefore argue that the depressing effect on the demand of deflation is a key reason why economists sometimes argue that maybe a less than 5% inflation rate is desirable than negative rate of inflation, because very low inflation means that the cost of inflation will be low, and at the same time, if you have mild inflation, that is good because it is associated with economic growth and prosperity. One last thought about, like, is deflation going to be harmful for all members of the society? Well, some economic groups will benefit from deflation, be it because of aggregate supply curve shifting to the right or AD curve shifting backward. Whenever there's a fall in price level, we know that people on fixed income like pensioners and creditors will benefit. Also, export prices will fall and import prices will rise. So X minus M can go up if they are sort of elastic, and that could also be beneficial for the economy. So while some parties like borrowers will lose out, the lenders will gain, people on fixed income will gain, even net exports will go up. So that could be some arguments that can raise for in favor of what we call deflation.